drop out. What a disgrace to the family.
Victor exclaimed loudly, laughing. His words made Ryan, sitting next to me, and Mario at the groom's table, show their anger. As for me, I was beyond anger, more like flabbergasted. True, unlike the accomplished pair, I didn't have an education to boast about. However, that was no reason to be laughed at in front of everyone.
Who's the real disgrace here?
Suddenly, the bride Lisa stood up. She marched over to Victor and snatched the mic from his hand. Victor tried to protest, but she glared at him, ignoring his objections.
Don't be rude to Jonathan. Unlike you, he's a man full of love.
Jonathan, did you just say Jonathan?
As soon as my name came up, his expression changed. Then, he looked at me closely.
Could you be Jonathan Hilton?
He asked, his face turning pale. It was clear from his expression that he couldn't believe it. To him, I just smiled. I apologize for the late introduction. Actually, I am. My name is Jonathan Hilton. I'm a 41-year-old, running a factory. I have a younger brother Mario, who is 13 years younger than me. He has always been diligent, constantly working hard since he was young. He doesn't remember our parents' faces. What? Our parents? They passed away in a car accident when he was just 3. It was such a sudden farewell. We were too busy with the funeral to even mourn properly.
So what are you going to do about these kids?
What followed was our relatives trying to pass us off to each other. Both sets of grandparents had already passed away, and our parents were only children. No relatives wanted to take in a teenager and a kindergartner. Maybe it would have been better to just go to an orphanage. However,
Jonathan.
Crying and clinging to me, Mario made me realize the possibility of us being separated. However, it seemed impossible for me to live alone with him. In fact, I just had started high school. I was torn about what to do.
Would you let me take you in?
That was when Ryan, who is our distant relative, offered his help. He had lost his wife and was living alone.
I've gotten quite lonely living by myself.
With that, he took us in. Thus, we moved to his place, and were able to live a peaceful life.
Are you sure about that? I have enough savings to cover your college expenses.
It's fine. I'll be using that money for Mario's sake from now on. After that, I chose to drop out of high school to work. I was sure Mario would have to spend a lot of money to grow in the near future. Therefore, I didn't want to cause any trouble. Fortunately, there was a factory in the same town, and I was able to get a job there.
It's a big help having a young guy like you join us.
The people at the factory were kind, and despite some tough times, I managed. I struggled every day to protect Mario. 25 years have passed since Ryan took us in.
Jonathan, the machine inspection is done.
Oh, thanks. I had become the person in charge of the factory, and all the employees trusted me. As for Mario,
man, I'm beat. Everyone thinks they can push me around because I'm young.
Sounds tough.
Yeah, but I've got a lot of things I want to do, so I'm gonna keep at it.
Believe it or not, he became a bureaucrat. Mario revered his foster father Ryan, and grew up straight as an arrow. Despite his youth, it seems he's having a hard time being recognized, but he's doing his best in his own way.
Hey, Jonathan, can I talk to you for a sec?
Sure, what's up?
Actually, there's a marriage proposal for Mario.
One day, Ryan approached me. Apparently, an acquaintance of his mentioned wanting to introduce Mario to a relative's daughter. I personally didn't think much of it. I had no desire to marry, and my family consisted of just Ryan and Mario, which was enough for me. Compared to me, Mario was still young, in his 20s. When I asked if he had a girlfriend, he said,
I'd like one, but no. Too busy with work.
So, if he could find happiness in marriage, I thought a matchmaking meeting would be good. However, The fact that Ryan came to me must mean there was something more. Is there something about the girl's family?
Actually, I've heard not so great things about them.
The father was known for his aggressive business dealings as a department manager in a large company. The mother, who was supposedly a doctor, was rarely home due to her job commitments.
About the daughter, she's known to be quite spoiled, having toyed with her previous boyfriends before ultimately dumping them.
Hearing such rumors, I could somewhat understand what Ryan was getting at. I'd be hesitant to introduce Mario to her too.
Considering all this, I suggested meeting her anyway, but Mario agreed, saying it's a good opportunity. I plan to be there, so what about you?
I checked my schedule upon hearing that. Unfortunately, I couldn't make any adjustments, so I had to leave it to Ryan. Later, he informed me that the meeting led to them starting to date. Hearing it, I decided to meet with Mario. Hey, Mario, can we meet up soon?
Yeah, of course. I've been wanting to see you too.
It had turned out he also wanted to meet, so we managed to arrange a dinner. When I asked about the matchmaking meeting,
Actually, we're engaged now.
"What? Engaged already?" I couldn't help but express my surprise, to which he just chuckled and said,
Yeah, well.
"You know about those rumors, right?"
Yeah, I've heard them from Ryan. But I decided to go through with it anyway.
He looked me straight in the eyes as he said so. I could feel the firmness of his resolve. However, I couldn't shake off my worry he might be getting deceived, and fell silent.
No problem.
"Are you sure?"
I want you to trust me.
Hearing that, I nodded. Then, his expression softened.
Actually, I want you to meet her too. Do you have time after this?
I had wanted to meet his fiancée before they got married as well, so I immediately agreed.
Nice to meet you. My name is Lisa Hart.
A few minutes later, his fiancée Lisa arrived. Contrary to the rumors, she was a quiet girl. There was no sense of her putting on an act. She would smile softly when Mario spoke to her, giving off the impression of a demure woman.
Actually, I have something I want you to hear.
Then, I was told a story. Surprised by its content, I agreed to help.
Thank you.
She said with a pure smile, who was indeed the opposite of the rumors. "Please take good care of my brother. Mario can be a bit dense, so if anything comes up, feel free to talk to me. I'll give him a stern talking to."
What's that supposed to mean?
Mario laughed at my words. Lisa smiled modestly in response, and Mario looked at her with a tender gaze. Soon after, we decided to have a meeting with both families. I had planned to attend, but then,
"Jonathan, there's a problem with the machinery."
a mechanical issue arose at the factory. I had to deal with the problem and make amends, which meant running around a lot. As a result, I couldn't attend the family meeting. Therefore, I hadn't been able to meet the other family until the wedding day. Victor Hart, that name sounds familiar. I had only heard the name from Mario, but it rang a bell for me. I thought the wedding was going to be eventful. The wedding itself proceeded smoothly. The issue arose during the bride's father's speech.
The groom, Mario, is a commendable young bureaucrat.
The speech was about Mario, and about his adoptive father Ryan. Then suddenly, he started talking about me in such a manner.
There's just one stain in this excellent family. That's the existence of the high school dropout brother. He's nothing but a drag on Mario, his brilliant brother.
The atmosphere in the room shifted.
I'm an elite division manager at a large company. My wife is a doctor. Ryan is a former bureaucrat and an excellent person. Nevertheless, Mario's brother is high school dropout. What a disgrace to the family,
he said, laughing loudly. His words made Ryan sitting next to me, and Mario at the groom's table, show anger on their faces. As for me, I was beyond angry and simply appalled. True, unlike the two of them, I didn't have an educational background to boast about. However, I didn't deserve to be laughed at in front of everyone like this.
Who's really the disgrace here?
At that moment, his daughter Lisa stood up. She strode over to Victor and took the microphone from his hand. He started to protest, but she glared at him, ignoring his objections.
Don't say disrespectful things about Jonathan. Unlike you, Jonathan is a person full of love.
Jonathan! Did you just say Jonathan?
As soon as my name was mentioned, his expression changed. He then looked at me intently.
Could it be you're that Jonathan Hilton?
Turning pale, he asked me. From his expression, I could tell he couldn't believe it. To him, I just smiled.
I apologize for the late introduction. I am Jonathan Hilton, the manager of the Seattle factory.
The murmurs spread through the hall when I introduced myself. The Seattle factory, which I was in charge of, was a large facility that had even expanded overseas.
The manager of Seattle factory. Isn't that the person who was featured on TV for a patent?
Indeed, the reason I was put in charge of the factory was because I had developed a patented product. Thanks to that, the already large factory grew even larger and successfully expanded overseas. Perhaps having caught wind of my reputation, I was approached for interviews and appeared on TV. That's probably why some people knew about me. With such achievements, I was scheduled to be promoted to an executive position soon.
Well, by the way.
As I said that and looked at Victor, he visibly flinched, seemingly guessing what I was about to say.
Your company wants to use my patented product, doesn't it? I heard from the sales team that you tried to force a contract using your name.
My apologies. I had no idea it was you.
He immediately apologized. He had the capacity to understand. He should have been more careful with his words and actions. I offered him a smile.
I haven't given my response yet. I don't want to sign a contract with someone like you. I'll make sure to tell the president to consider our discussion void.
Please, reconsider.
He desperately pleaded. I gave him a cold look.
I'm a disgrace to my family, right? Then, you wouldn't want to associate with me, would you?
No, please don't get me wrong. I take back what I said earlier. Let's support each other as family from now on.
Unfortunately, I have no intention of becoming family with you.
After saying that, I turned my gaze to Lisa. She nodded firmly and gripped the microphone again. Next, it was her turn. I quietly shifted to a supportive stance.
Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for causing a disturbance.
As she began to speak, all eyes in the venue turned to her.
Until now, I've always done as my father said because he would get physical if I didn't comply. My mother would say she's too busy with work to pay attention to me.
Those words cast a shadow of doubt over her parents. It made them flinch.
My father has introduced me to men saying, "He's your boyfriend starting today," several times. However, all of them were terrible people, merely sons of influential figures.
The men Victor introduced were all either cheaters or leeches, prone to violence. As she managed to break up with each through various schemes, she was labeled a spoiled brat by those around her.
I hereby sever ties with my parents, who see me only as a tool. Therefore, Jonathan will not become part of your family either.
She declared. When Mario and I met the other day, she revealed the true nature of her parents. Her father got quick to anger and violence. Her mother used work as an excuse and only paid attention to her daughter when treating injuries.
To shame such parents in front of many people. That's why we held this wedding today.
Lisa confessed in front of the crowd. Mario stood beside her. He aligned with her decision, having agreed early on to engage in order to support her plan.
As an individual, I cannot forgive the two of you. That's why I decided to help.
He said, embracing Lisa's shoulder, his feelings evident in his expression. The cold glances from Mario and the disapproving stares from the others made Lisa's parents avert their eyes uncomfortably. Watching that, Ryan stood up quietly.
I understand now what kind of parents you guys are. Trying to use my son Mario, and insulting even Jonathan. I will never forgive you.
With that, Victor collapsed, his knees buckling. His wife turned pale, signifying Lisa's revenge had been realized.
Everything is done.
As watched, Lisa shed tears. Mario comforted her, and Ryan instructed the staff to escort the parents out. After they left, Mario stood in front of Lisa.
I truly love you. So, I want you to marry me.
Lisa was taken aback by his words, her eyes widening. Indeed, Mario had already deeply fallen in love with her. I could somewhat sense that from the way he looked and acted towards her.
Is it really okay for it to be me?
It has to be you.
At his words, she cried again. Both Mario and Lisa, having not received love from their parents, they seemed to have been drawn to each other despite their different circumstances.
I don't remember receiving love from my parents. But I received a lot of love from Jonathan and from Ryan. Now, I want to pour all that love into you.
I never received love either. So, honestly, being loved and loving someone scares me. But I feel like it might be okay if it's with you, Mario.
As they spoke, applause erupted from those around them. Mario and Lisa, slightly embarrassed, wore happy faces.
Jonathan, Ryan, thank you so much for raising me.
At that moment, Mario expressed his gratitude to us. I was so surprised by his words that I froze.
Because of you too, I am who I am today. To me, you guys are a family to be proud of.
His words nearly brought us, including Ryan, to tears. Seeing us like that, he flashed a grin like a child who had successfully pulled off a prank. After their wedding, the two of them set off on their honeymoon.
I'll have everything sorted out by the time you guys get back.
With those words, I sent them off and headed to the factory.
Please, I'm begging you, sign a contract with us.
In front of the factory, there was a protesting figure. It was Victor. The employees cast curious glances at him.
If we can't secure a contract with you, I'm done for.
He was probably on the verge of being fired. While I watched him in desperation, I called the police to report a suspicious person. Then, a few minutes later,
Please, just hear me out.
Victor was screaming as the police took him away.
Man, always causing a scene.
But with that, he surely won't be able to show his face to us again. Missing out on the contract and now involved in a police matter, his company would likely fire him. Ryan had already used his network to spread the word about today's incident, making it nearly impossible for Victor to find employment in this area again.
Anyone who tries to hurt my family is unforgivable.
Muttering to myself, I headed towards the factory.
Oh, Jonathan, there was this weird guy just now.
As soon as I appeared, the employees started talking to me one after another. Some even had video evidence of Victor.
I'm sorry for the worry. I'll make sure he doesn't show up here again.
What a great chief, quick to act.
Relieved by my words, everyone seemed at ease. I received the recordings that could be construed as business interference. With that, we could take legal action if necessary. To protect the peace of mind of the employees who trust me, I decided to act immediately. After all, as I had expected, Victor was indeed fired. I've also gone around telling people that.
My sister-in-law was tormented by this person.
Additionally, I've said,
I don't want to do business with anyone who would hire such a person.
There are plenty of companies that want to contract with our factory. It's unlikely that any of them would accept him, and those that already have contracts might reconsider hiring him, considering they could be cut off. Our patented products are that superior.
It seems that because of the incident, Victor's wife was also kicked out of the hospital.
She is now a doctor who are frowned upon by both former and current bureaucrats. The hospitals probably doesn't want to deal with such a doctor either. After losing their jobs and having a big argument, they ended up getting divorced.
What about the two of them?
According to the private investigator I hired, it seems they went back to their respective parents' houses. However, they were turned away because of what they had done to their child.
According to Ryan, the story of these two has spread throughout their respective industries. As a result, they're unable to find employment anywhere and are barely making ends meet through part-time jobs.
Now it's their turn to suffer. Thank you for your help.
I showed my gratitude to Ryan, who had helped spread the word. Then, he smiled kindly.
I'm really glad I took you guys in.
That's when he began to share his thoughts. I was hearing it for the first time.
When my wife passed away from illness, I even thought about following her. But then I heard about you guys and decided to take you in.
Ryan.
Ever since you guys came to our home, I've been busy every day, and I've been able to put my wife's memory in a good place. Thank you for becoming my sons.
I should be the one saying that. Thinking so, I looked straight at him.
No, thank you for taking us in as your children, Dad.
With my words, he smiled. By the time Mario and Lisa returned, there was no more mention of Victor and his company. As a result, they seemed to be living comfortably. Perhaps it's because of that environment, Lisa got pregnant.
Wow. Pregnant?
Yeah. I'm going to be a dad.
Thanks to Jonathan and Ryan thoroughly dealing with those people, I was able to get pregnant. I can't thank you both enough.
Lisa said, smiling genuinely happy. Seeing her smile, we all felt relieved.
I'll provide as much support as I can. I've asked around for advice from various people.
She now doesn't have parents who she can ask for advice. So, we decided to support her. When I consulted with the employees, I received various pieces of advice from the nurturing women among them. At that time,
for the sake of our cute nephew or niece, we have to do our best, future president,
they said, patting me on the back. Just the other day, I had been promoted to an executive, and was told by the president that I would be the successor. I'm working hard every day to meet those expectations.
Wow, Ryan. It's too early for baby clothes when we don't even know the gender yet, right?
You know what? I just can't wait for my grandchild.
Ryan is already over the moon about his unborn grandchild. We all laugh at that. Do my best to protect these smiles, I swear it.